When you combine your observations of other people with evaluations, the more they hear criticism and resist what you're saying. And the more criticism they hear, the worse your relationship with them will be. And the more they resist what you're saying, the more powerless you'll feel to influence them. But what do we mean by evaluations? Well, an evaluation is a static generalization of another person or situation. For example, you're always late. You complain all the time. You're so arrogant. Jessica is such a crybaby. This is scary. And James is so lazy. Observations, on the other hand, are simple accounts of a situation or another person which are as close to the truth as possible. As the Indian philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti said, to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. To use the same examples of evaluations which are on the left side column, but now to turn them into observations, they would sound like, the last 3 times we arranged to go out, you arrived late. You called me and spoke about how dirty your house is 3 times. When you explained your point to me, you asked me 4 times, how did you not know this? I saw Jessica yesterday and she said she doesn't want to work her job anymore. I feel fear instead of this is scary. And finally, James studies for exams the night before, rather than James is so lazy. You see, relationships become stifled when one or more person evaluates the other, cementing them into a static reality, which is totally separate from the truth. But beyond the obvious reasons, why is this harmful? To put it simply, the reason why evaluations are so harmful is because you, as a human being, you are not a static generalization. To put it in a woo-woo hippie sense, you are an ever-flowing and changing stream of life. However, evaluations are the opposite, because whether they come in the form of analysis, name-calling, or labelling, the only purpose they serve is to block this flow of growth and life. They are anti-growth. To give you a quick analogy, making an evaluation is no different from going into a garden, digging up a plant, and then putting it in a cardboard box to end its growth. Another analogy, if that one doesn't work for you, imagine the flow of yourself and your change and your communication that you use throughout life as water flowing through a pipe freely. But as soon as an evaluation enters the scene, boom, that flow of water is now constricted and blocked. If you watch a lot of my videos, you can tell that right now, while I'm explaining this, I'm bringing a lot more annoyed energy into the video. And this is because I've been thinking about this topic non-stop for the last few weeks. And for the first time ever in my life, I have reached a point where I do not tolerate any evaluation from other people or myself when I'm talking to myself in my head. I don't tolerate it because it is an act of violence towards the process of growth you need to allow yourself to go through in life in order to be a human being and become the person that you want to be. Because the bigger picture here, just to quickly zoom out, is whenever we hear an evaluation in the form of a label, analysis, or a name call, you're such a, oh, you always do this. Whenever we hear that label, we want to act in a way that is consistent with that label, be it coming from the outside in or the inside out. Because human behavior is based on identity. If you believe that you are the type of person who always does this, or you are the type of person who always reacts in this way, it becomes a self-fulfilling dynamic where you are locked in a psychological dimension of, oh, people keep telling me I'm this way, or I always do this. Therefore, let me keep the cycle going. But anyway, enough of the venting. Let's now cover the 7 ways that evaluations are formed so that you can understand them when other people are evaluating you and you are evaluating other people, so that we can all do it a bit less. The examples are a bit small on the board, but don't worry, we're going to read them out together. The first way evaluations are formed is with the use of the verb to be without the evaluator taking responsibility for the evaluation. For example, you are too generous. Yes, even positive sentences can be an evaluation because you're implying you're stood above the other person, evaluating them. The bottom line is just get used to saying I think or in my opinion. How could we turn that into an observation? Well, you could say, when I see you give all your lunch money to others, I think you're being too generous. The second way evaluations are formed is with the use of verbs with evaluative connotations. Covered this one, Doug procrastinates. Observation, Doug only studies the night before exams. The implication that one's inferences about another's thoughts, feelings, desires, intentions are the only ones possible is the third way evaluations are formed. For example, she won't get her work in. Observation, I don't think she'll get her work in. Simple change there. I don't. Who's taking responsibility for this evaluation? Me. Then it becomes an observation. The fourth way is confusion of prediction of certainty. If you don't eat balanced meals, your health will be impaired. That's an evaluation. Observation. If you don't eat balanced meals, I fear your health may be impaired. 3 more. Failure to be specific about reference. Immigrants don't clean up after themselves. Observation. I haven't seen the family who live at 176 clean their front garden. Number 6. Use of words denoting ability without indicating an evaluation has been made. You're a terrible dancer. Evaluation. How could we turn that into an observation? When we dance, you grip my hand too tightly. Finally, number 7. Use of adverbs and adjectives that don't indicate an evaluation has been made. James is ugly. James's looks don't appeal to me. That would be an observation. You might have guessed it already, but the bottom line of this video is in order to protect the growth of your relationships, your own life, and the other people in your life, observe as much as possible and get rid of your evaluations as much as possible. But how can you do so? Two questions you can ask yourself the next time you're about to say something about yourself, someone else, or a situation in order to help you stop evaluating are, is this a static generalization or is this a simple account of how I see things? But the tricky thing here is this second question, because how you see things up until this point might be evaluative. So a third question you can ask is, the next time you're about to say something about yourself, someone else, or a situation, ask, is me saying this allowing the person involved the opportunity to grow? Or am I cementing them into a psychological static generalization? If so, you're evaluating. If you get the sense that despite what you're about to say will permit the person the opportunity to flourish and grow, then it's likely an observation. To give you 3 quick examples to round this off, she's so jealous is obviously a static generalization. However, an observation would be, when I spoke about my ex, she asked about my feelings towards her now. A simple account of how you saw things. You're such a cheapskate becomes, when we went out last Friday, you chose the cheaper restaurant option. And finally, my country is such a shithole becomes, it's rained for the last 7 days. Lol, tell me your English without telling me your English. Anyway,
That's long.
What?
That's long.
What's long?
This.
Why?
Look, I'm not being funny here, but no one in their right mind is going to take the time to observe instead of evaluating. Evaluating is quick anyway. And plus it's kind of fun, you know.
Alright, but that is the whole point. That it's not easy to do, but if you observe instead of evaluating, then people are going to love to have you around and your relationships are going to be a lot better. And the relationship with yourself as well.
Meh. Still long.
Yes. Whatever. Look, go and put the kettle on. We're almost done. And I fancy a cup of tea. Go put the kettle on. No.
Alright.
Kettle on. God, you get so grumpy when you make videos.
That's an evaluation.
Twat.
That's still it.
Anyway, look, To finalise this all off, remember that sometimes you're going to evaluate. Your emotions are going to get heated and you're just going to make a snap judgment of yourself or the other person. That's fine, you're human. But more often than not, observe. And most importantly, apply the same principle to yourself as well. Notice when your self-talk is becoming evaluative and reject it. Refuse to accept anything other than an observation towards yourself. For example, I'm such a lazy piece of poo becomes I woke up at 10 a.m. today and doom scrolled for 3 hours. Simple observation of your actions without any judgment thrown into the mix. I always mess things up becomes I asked a stranger for her number and she said no. Take a quick guess as to which one is going to enable you to maintain a better, healthier relationship with yourself. Refuse to accept anything other than an observation of your actions from yourself and other people. Right, feel free to end this video right now, but if you'd like to go one tiny step further, then what we're going to do is, in order to consolidate and synthesize everything that we've learned in this short video, I'm going to put 10 sentences on the board, and I just want you to have a look through them and think about which one you think is a observation or an evaluation. And then I'm going to reveal the answers in about a minute's time. Or actually, we'll reveal the answers as we go through it. First sentence. John was angry with me yesterday for no reason. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Is that an observation or an evaluation? That is an evaluation. If I go too quick, by the way, feel free to pause the video after I read the sentences out. This is an evaluation simply because of the word angry and the words no reason. First of all, you don't know if John was angry. He could have been sad, he could have been despondent, whatever. Also, for no reason implies an evaluation as well, because again, you don't know whether there was no reason or not. How could we change that for an observation? You could say, when I spoke to him yesterday, John pounded the table with his fist. Again, a simple account of what you saw. Number 2, yesterday Nancy bit her fingernails while watching TV. Observation. Simple account of what you saw. Number 3, Sam didn't ask for my opinion during the meeting. Observation again. Number 4, my father is a good man. That would be an evaluation. We alluded to this quickly earlier in the sense that positive evaluations are still evaluations because it implies you're in judgment of the other person, regardless of whether it's positive or not. Now, how could we change this for an observation? You could say, I think my father is a good man. Just put in I think, gets you out of the observation territory and more into the observational realm. You could also say, simple observation, for the last 25 years, my father has donated 1/3 of his salary to charity. That's an example. Number 5, Alex works too much. That is an evaluation, simply because of too much. This is where you get into the values evaluation, where you're implying that the fact that Alex works the amount that he does, you think it's bad based on the values that you have, which is very spiritually aggressive. So how could we change this? Well, simple observation. For the last 2 weeks, Alex has worked 60 hours a week, or for 5 hours each morning from 8 until 1 or 12, Alex sits at his desk and works without interruption. Number 6, Henry is aggressive. Again, similar to the angry problem, this is still an evaluation. You could say, because again, you're interpreting someone's behaviour, right? And that could be wrong. He might not be aggressive in the eyes of someone else. So simply recount what he did. On Tuesday morning, while they were playing, Henry punched his sister Julia in the face. Number 7. Jessica was first in line every day this week. It's just started raining outside. Observation. Number 8, 3 more. My son often doesn't brush his teeth. That's an evaluation. Simply because of one sneaky word. Often. What would be better is to say, for the last 3 nights, my son hasn't brushed his teeth. 2 more. Luke told me I don't look good in yellow. Observation. And finally, boom. My aunt complains when I talk to her. Evaluation. Evaluation because of the word complain. Similar problem, isn't it, to aggressive, angry, complaining. In the eyes of someone else, this person might not have been complaining, so it's always best to just maintain as close as a relationship as you can to truth. How could we change this? Well, yesterday, when I spoke to my aunt on the phone, she mentioned 3 situations in which other people had treated her badly. Some examples. Right. Observe as much as you can. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Stay disciplined, playful and dangerous. Adios, muchachos y muchachos. Muchachas. And if you want a book to read on this, check out Nonviolent Communication by Marshall B. Rosenberg. I did a full guide on it. Feel free to check it out up here if you want to, but if not, just read the book. It's brilliant. Adios.